Hey everyone, and welcome. Today, we're digging into the story of an institution that wields an incredible amount of power in the world's biggest democracy. Yep, we're talking about the Supreme Court of India. Now, I know what you're thinking. That's a pretty bold claim, right? But stick with me, because by the end of this, you'll see exactly why people are even asking that question. Okay, let's get into it. So to really get a handle on the court's power today, we have to go back. I mean, way back. Its story isn't just about dusty law books. It's really about a nation's whole journey from being a colony to being its own boss. You know, this didn't just happen overnight. It was a really slow burn. It all started way back in 1773 as a colonial court in Calcutta, and it was definitely under the thumb of the British. Fast forward to 1935, and we get the federal court, which was a step in the right direction, but the final say on any big legal issue, that still went to a council back in London. The real game changer came in 1950, just 2 days after India became a republic. The Supreme Court we know today was born, finally becoming the top court in the entire country. But here's the thing. The court's independence wasn't just handed over on a silver platter. Oh no, it was won. And this is where the story gets really interesting, because the true source of its power comes from a massive fight over one single question. Who gets to pick the judges? It sounds so simple, doesn't it? But the answer to this one question kicked off a decades-long tug-of-war between the elected government and the judiciary itself. This was the battle that would end up defining just how independent the court could be. And this whole fight, it played out in three major acts, known as the judges' cases. At first, back in '82, the court said the government just had to consult them, but didn't have to agree. So the government basically had the final say. Then, boom, about a decade later, the court pulls a complete 180. In the second judge's case, it said consultation now means concurrence, meaning the government had to agree with the judiciary. The power had officially shifted. And by 1998, they made it official by creating a special group of senior judges to handle it all. And what came out of all that? This thing called the Collegium. Now, what's so wild about this is how it works. In most places, the government or legislature appoints judges. But in India, the court created a system where judges, well, they pretty much appoint other judges. And get this, it wasn't created by an act of parliament. The court itself interpreted the Constitution to bring the system into existence. So as you can imagine, the government wasn't exactly thrilled about this. In 2014, Parliament tried to take back the reins. They created something called the National Judicial Appointments Commission, or NJAC. The idea was to have a group of judges, politicians, and legal experts all make the picks together. It was a direct challenge to the court's collegium. So what happened in this massive showdown? Well, in what was a huge display of its own power, the Supreme Court just struck down the entire law. It said that having government ministers involved in picking judges was a threat to judicial independence. So yeah, the court protected its own power, and the collegium system is still in place today. All right, so the court fought for and won its independence. Now for the really cool part. What can it actually do with all that power? This brings us to its incredible arsenal of powers, its superpowers, if you will. And look, this isn't just me saying it. This idea has been around from the very beginning. One of the people who actually helped write India's constitution, Aladi Krishnaswamy Iyer, said right from the start that this court had more power than any other top court in the world. So what's in this toolkit? First up, it's basically your ultimate guardian. Any citizen who feels their fundamental rights are being violated can go straight to the Supreme Court. No waiting. Second, it has the power of judicial review. That means it can look at any law passed by Parliament, and if it decides that law violates the Constitution, it can just strike it down. Gone. And third, it's the final referee on the Constitution. Whatever the court says the Constitution means, well, that's what it means. Period. End of story. Okay, so let's pull all these threads together. We've got the history, the epic fight over appointments, these immense powers. When you put it all together, you start to see this picture of a really unique and incredibly powerful institution. And really, this is the core of it all, isn't it? Just think about it for a second. You have a court that gets to pick its own members, making it totally self-regulating. And that same court has the power to cancel laws made by the government that people actually voted for. It's that combination of independence and raw power that makes it such a force to be reckoned with. Which leaves us with this one massive, hanging question. Is this system the ultimate guardian of democracy, standing watch over everyone's rights? Or Does all this unelected power risk becoming a world of its own, unaccountable to anyone? The answer, just like the court itself, is incredibly complex, and it's a debate that's still very much alive.